In the realm of LNG operations, the person in charge, whether serving aboard a vessel or at a shoreside facility, is guided by a deep and demanding body of industry knowledge. This role exists at the intersection of engineering, operations, safety, and regulatory compliance. Before a PIC ever assumes active operational control, they must first understand and internalize the foundational regulatory framework governing LNG transfer operations. To qualify for a US Coast Guard liquefied gases person in charge credential, an applicant must complete and pass a USCG-approved course, document the required number of LNG loads, discharges, and complete transfer operations, and meet the specified sea service requirements on the applicable vessel type. Participation alone does not qualify an individual. Only supervised loads and discharges performed as person in charge count toward qualification. A shoreside PIC requires extensive training as well. The LNG plants usually require more stringent measures to ensure both plant-side and shoreside compliance is strictly adhered to. Earning the credential, whether vessel or shoreside, meets only the minimum legal threshold. It is through continuous learning, disciplined critical thinking, and hard-earned operational experience that someone truly becomes a person in charge. At the federal level, the US Coast Guard establishes and enforces safety requirements for LNG transfer and operations at waterfront facilities and during ship-to-ship bunkering. These requirements include adopting a risk-based operational approach, ensuring that detailed bunkering proposals and transfer plans are developed, reviewed and approved, and maintaining a full understanding of LNG hazards and emergency procedures. For shoreside LNG operations, additional regulatory oversight applies. The Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, or PHMSA, establishes and enforces safety regulations covering LNG facility design, equipment, operations, maintenance, and personnel qualification. Environmental compliance is overseen by the Environmental Protection Agency, ensuring that LNG operations meet air quality, emissions, and environmental protection standards. Together, the US Coast Guard, PHMSA, and the Environmental Protection Agency form the regulatory backbone governing shoreside LNG operations, an oversight framework that every shoreside person in charge must fully understand and rigorously uphold. On the maritime side, LNG operations are governed by the US Coast Guard, international IMO codes, such as the IGC and IGF, and classification society requirements like ABS, making regulatory compliance a core responsibility of the vessel person in charge. Once these foundational regulatory requirements are understood, industry best practices define the operational expectations of the PIC. Guidance from the Society of International Gas Tanker and Terminal Operators, SIGTO, outlines the competencies required for LNG persons in charge, including technical knowledge, cargo system familiarity, emergency response capability, and structured operational discipline. SIGTO guidance emphasizes controlled transfers, continuous monitoring, emergency preparedness, and disciplined adherence to established procedures. Layered on top of this framework are the standards of the American Bureau of Shipping. A BS requires advanced LNG training for personnel with operational responsibility, aligned with international standards such as the IGF code and STCW. ABS also establishes engineering and operational guidelines for LNG bunkering systems, emergency shutdown systems, emergency release systems, and transfer equipment. These standards apply equally to vessel-based and shoreside PICs and define how LNG systems must be operated, monitored, and safeguarded. Collectively, Coast Guard regulations, SIGTO best practices, ABS standards, and shoreside regulatory oversight represent the minimum acceptable standard for any LNG person in charge. These requirements must always be applied in conjunction with the vessel's or terminal's internal operating procedures, safety management systems, and emergency response plans. Before any LNG bunkering operation begins, whether ship-to-ship or shore-to-ship, both vessel and shoreside PICs must formally document that all required pre-transfer safety checks have been completed. This begins with the Declaration of Inspection, or DOI, which serves as an official record that pre-transfer safety checks have been performed on both sides of the transfer. These checks include verification of fire and gas detection systems, confirmation of fire protection and firefighting system readiness, validation of ship-to-shore communication links, confirmation of emergency shutdown system functionality, and testing protocols, and verification that qualified personnel are properly assigned and in position. Alongside the DOI, the Declaration of Security, or DOS, documents that security measures have been agreed upon and implemented between the vessels and/or facility. The Notice of Readiness, or NOR, formally establishes that both parties are operationally prepared to commence bunkering. In parallel, the IAPH LNG checklist provides a structured, jointly verified record that all safety, operational and communication requirements have been met prior to, during and after ship-to-ship transfers. There may also be draining and purging procedures and may include other documents that are terminal or receiving vessel specific. The hoses or marine loading arms will be carefully connected. Pressure tests will be performed. 5 bar on the liquid carrying lines and 2 bar on the vapor lines for 10 minutes, checking for leaks and pressure drop to verify a safe connection. With all the documents in order, the water curtain, ship-to-shore or ship-to-ship link, powered emergency release coupling, or PIC if it's a ship-to-ship transfer, and custody transfer system will all be activated before performing the warm ESD tests to ensure the safety systems are active and functioning correctly. From a technical standpoint, the PIC's responsibilities intensify once operations begin. A competent PIC carefully manages the controlled cooldown of LNG transfer systems to avoid thermal shock and material stress. Most cooldowns are usually an hour, and upon reaching cryogenic temperatures, the ESD valves then undergo a cold stroke test to ensure operation at these temperatures are still functional. Now, bulk transfer may begin with a monitored ramp-up. Then, throughout the transfer, the continuous monitoring of tank pressures, temperatures, and flow rates using real-time instrumentation and control systems is continued for the duration of the cargo operations. Vessel moorings are kept under constant observation to ensure stability in response to weather, tide, or current changes. Continuous, clear communication is maintained between vessel and shoreside PICs to ensure coordinated responses to any developing conditions. If any parameter moves outside expected limits, whether pressure deviation, temperature anomaly, flow instability, or mooring concern, the PIC is prepared to take immediate corrective action. This may include adjustment of operations, activation of emergency shutdown systems, or coordination of emergency response actions in accordance with established protocols. The PIC's role is one of constant vigilance, technical awareness, and disciplined decision-making. LNG operations generate vast amounts of data, far more than any individual can manage point by point. Beyond real-time monitoring, the truly professional person in charge understands how to harness the power of trend analysis. By analyzing trends in temperatures, pressures, and flow rates, the PIC can detect subtle deviations that may indicate equipment wear, degradation, or emerging system issues long before alarms are triggered. Trend analysis enables proactive maintenance planning, informed operational decisions, and early intervention, reducing the likelihood of failures, unplanned downtime, or safety incidents. It is a critical tool in maintaining the long-term integrity of LNG systems, especially given the limited availability of specialized service technicians and long lead times associated with foreign manufactured equipment. The constant monitoring and repetitive rounds continue throughout the duration of the bunkering. This ensures any abnormal operating conditions can be detected as early as possible should any arise. The loading or discharge evolution comes to its completion with a controlled ramp down, ensuring the equipment is safely stopped and secured once the nomination has been fulfilled. After cargo operations are complete, the PIC's responsibilities continue. A formal post-bunkering checklist is completed to verify that all transfer safety systems are inhibited before being safely disconnected and secured. Then, the disconnection and securing of the transfer hoses or marine loading arms may take place. This includes proper draining and inerting of hoses and piping, confirmation that valves and connections are returned to a safe configuration, and verification that restricted areas can be safely released. The PIC also evaluates any new operational conditions resulting from the change in cargo, including updated pressure and temperature profiles and system configurations. Finally, the PIC completes custody transfer documentation, including transfer agreements, measurement records, and quality certificates. These documents formally record the transfer of LNG, establish accountability, and protect all parties involved from commercial and regulatory disputes. Accurate documentation is not administrative overhead. It is a core risk management function. As the LNG industry continues to grow rapidly, the demand for qualified persons in charge, both vessel-based and shoreside, is increasing. This growth must not result in compromised standards. The rush to fill vacancies cannot supersede the need for rigorous training, operational experience, and demonstrated competence. LNG PICs hold direct responsibility for high-value assets, public safety, environmental protection, and corporate liability. Upholding professionalism, continuously honing one's craft, and maintaining strict adherence to regulatory and industry standards is not optional. It is the foundation upon which safe, reliable LNG operations are built. Strict adherence to rigorous standards is essential for sustainable growth. As outlined in this video, the role of the PIC carries significant responsibility. With global demand continuing to rise, the competence, experience, and professionalism of PICs must be deliberately cultivated, not simply assumed.